the defining moment of the event, and perhaps the defining moment of an entire political era, occurred precisely 23 minutes into what Senator Adam Schiff had confidently anticipated would serve as his finest hour, the absolute pinnacle of his legislative career and his moment of ultimate triumph, where he would finally corner his adversary. It was the singular opportunity he had spent years maneuvering toward, a chance to finally interrogate President Donald Trump on live television before a captivated audience of 78 million Americans, to pose the specific, razor-sharp questions that he believed Trump had been dodging for 8 long years, and to force definitive answers regarding Russia, regarding allegations of collusion, and regarding all those suspicious contacts and secret meetings and compromising information that had dominated the national discourse. This was the moment where Adam Schiff, positioning himself as the unrivaled intelligence expert, the defender of democracy, and the champion of truth, would finally hold Donald Trump accountable in a public forum. He had been preparing for weeks, meticulously writing questions designed to corner the president, crafting inquiries with no good answers, questions structured to make Trump either admit to wrongdoing or look visibly guilty by refusing to answer, the kind of entrapment questions seasoned prosecutors ask when they already know the truth and just want the defendant to confess. He had his opening question ready, having practiced it 50 times until the delivery was flawless. A question that accused Trump of concealing Russia contacts while pretending to simply ask for clarification, a classic courtroom tactic to make the accusation sound like curiosity. However, what Adam Schiff did not know, what he had no way of knowing because he had spent 8 years believing his narratives were permanently safe behind the veil of government secrecy, was that Trump had just declassified everything. Every single classified briefing Schiff had attended from 2017 to 2024. Every intelligence assessment about Trump-Russia connections, every FBI report, every CIA analysis, and every document that showed what Schiff had actually been told in those secret briefings versus what he told the American public afterward had been declassified, approved for public release, and compiled into a digital presentation ready to display on the massive screens flanking the presidential podium. And now, 23 minutes into the press conference, Trump was holding up the first document, the most important one, the one that would destroy everything, a classified intelligence brief from the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, specifically the Gang of 8 briefing from the 15th of March 2017, declassified on the 15th of January 2025. The text was projected on screens 10 feet tall, so large that every camera in the room could see it, and every person watching at home could read it, displaying the FBI counterintelligence assessment regarding the investigation into potential coordination between the Trump campaign and the Russian government. The status read, "No evidence of coordination or conspiracy found to date. Multiple contacts between campaign associates and Russian nationals confirmed. But contacts alone do not indicate conspiracy. Investigations continuing, but no credible intelligence suggests coordination at this time." The date was clear, March 15th, 2017, and the signature page showed everyone who had attended the briefing, including Adam Schiff, then the ranking member of the House Intelligence Committee. At that moment, Adam Schiff's face, a face that had perfected the look of grave concern, of the serious intelligence expert, of the man burdened by terrible secrets he couldn't share, was doing something faces shouldn't do on television, cycling through emotions in rapid succession: confusion, recognition, realization, horror, and finally, panic. It was the look of a man watching his entire career, his entire reputation, and his entire political identity implode in real time, because he knew what was coming next. He knew what Trump was about to show everyone, And he knew that the lie he had told the day after that briefing, the lie he had repeated 227 times over the next 2 years, was about to be exposed to the entire nation. The lie that had started everything, the Russia hoax, the investigations, the impeachments, the special counsel, 8 years of conspiracy theories and destroyed reputations and a nation torn apart, was all based on Adam Schiff saying he'd seen evidence that the classified briefings explicitly said didn't exist, and now everyone was about to see the proof. To understand how the nation arrived at this frozen second, where a single declassified document became the bullet that killed a career built on deception, one must rewind not far, just 90 minutes back, to when Adam Schiff still thought he was the hunter instead of the prey. 2 weeks earlier, the White House had made an unusual announcement that President Trump would be holding a special press conference as part of a transparency initiative to address years of misinformation about Russian collusion and to restore trust in government intelligence. The press secretary had been specific that this wouldn't be a normal press conference. The president wanted to address the lingering questions about Russia, the investigations, and the impeachments, and he wanted to do it by inviting his biggest critics to ask questions directly. The president had specifically invited Senator Adam Schiff as a special guest questioner, with the announcement stating that Senator Schiff had been one of the most vocal critics regarding Russia matters and would have a seat in the front row with first question privileges. The narrative was set that President Trump believed in transparency and accountability, and was willing to answer tough questions from those who've investigated him. The media went absolutely insane with anticipation. Trump was finally going to face Schiff, the man who'd been his chief antagonist for 8 years, the man who'd led 2 impeachment inquiries, the man who'd spent countless hours on cable news warning America about Trump's connections to Russia. CNN ran with headlines like "Trump finally faces his nemesis." MSNBC did a special countdown titled "The Reckoning. Schiff gets his chance." And even Fox News, usually favorable to Trump, couldn't hide their excitement about the confrontation. Adam Schiff held his own press conference to announce he was accepting the invitation, standing at a podium in the Senate, with cameras everywhere, looking like a prosecutor preparing for the trial of his career, thanking President Trump for the invitation and declaring that the American people deserved answers, truth, and accountability. He stated he had questions the president had been avoiding for 8 years regarding Russian interference, contacts between his campaign and Russian agents, finances, and intelligence community assessments. He paused, letting the gravity of his words sink in, declaring it was time for transparency and truth, and that he looked forward to the conversation. The Democratic base loved it, believing finally Schiff would get to question Trump directly, with no Republican protectors, no sympathetic moderators, just Schiff and Trump face to face, truth versus lies. Behind the scenes, Schiff's staff was preparing like it was the Super Bowl, compiling questions, researching answers Trump might give, preparing follow-ups, and designing traps, with every question crafted to either get a damaging admission or make Trump look evasive and guilty. What none of them knew was that in a secure facility at FBI headquarters, Director Kash Patel had spent 6 months compiling something else, an 847-page dossier on Adam Schiff, containing every classified briefing he'd attended, every intelligence assessment he'd seen, every time he'd gone on television afterward and said something that contradicted what he'd been told, every phone call to reporters that preceded a leak of classified information, every coordination with FBI officials who were later fired for misconduct, every fabrication, every distortion, and every lie. All of it was documented, all of it cross-referenced, all of it verified by multiple sources, and all of it declassified the week before the press conference, properly and legally through the appropriate channels, ready to be shown to the public. The trap was set, and Schiff just didn't know he was walking into it. The day of the press conference arrived at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. The White House East Room was packed beyond capacity. Every major network was there, including CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, ABC, NBC, CBS, PBS, international press, and digital media. The room was so full that reporters were standing 3 deep against the walls. At the front of the room was the presidential podium with the seal, and behind it were 2 massive screens, which the White House had announced were for transparency purposes to display any documents or evidence the president referenced. In the front row, in a special seat with a small placard reading Senator Adam Schiff, guest questioner, sat the man himself. He looked confident, ready, adjusting his tie, reviewing his notes, and whispering to an aide sitting behind him. He had the expression of someone about to do something historic, something important, something that would define his legacy. He thought he was about to become the man who finally held Trump accountable on live television. He had no idea. He was about to become a cautionary tale about what happens when you spend 8 years lying about classified information and someone finally declassifies it. President Trump entered the East Room at exactly 2 p.m. The press corps stood. He walked to the podium, shook a few hands, acknowledged people in the crowd, and looked relaxed, almost casual, not with his usual rally energy, but something quieter, more controlled, like someone who knows the punchline to a very long joke. He arranged some papers on the podium, placed a remote control next to them, glanced at the screens to make sure they were working. Then he looked out at the packed room and began. He thanked everyone for being there, stating they had a lot to cover regarding transparency, truth, and showing the American people what actually happened over the past 8 years versus what they were told happened. He paused, noting that for 8 years he had been accused of colluding with Russia, investigated, impeached twice, called a traitor, a Putin puppet, and an agent of a foreign power. He mentioned his family had been harassed, his businesses targeted, and his supporters demonized, all because certain people told America that he was working with Russia to undermine democracy. And for 8 years, certain people with access to classified intelligence, people with security clearances, people in positions of trust, told the American public they'd seen evidence, direct evidence, more than circumstantial evidence, compelling evidence that he was compromised. He looked directly at Schiff and said they told the public to trust them, that they couldn't show the evidence because it was classified, secret, sensitive, but to trust them because they had seen it in classified briefings. Trump gestured to the screens behind him and announced that today everyone was going to look at what they actually saw because he had declassified it all. Every classified briefing, every intelligence assessment, every FBI report about Trump-Russia connections was all declassified, all approved for public release, all available online right now for anyone to verify. He explained that these screens would show actual classified documents from actual intelligence briefings, so the public could see what certain members of Congress were actually told versus what they told the public. He picked up the remote and said they would start with the person who'd been most vocal about this, Senator Schiff, and, as promised, gave him the first question. The cameras swung to Schiff. This was his moment. He stood up, microphone passed to him by a White House aide. Every camera in the room focused on his face. He looked confident. This was what he'd prepared for. The opening salvo. The question that would set the tone. He thanked the president and asked a straightforward question. Why did Trump and members of his campaign have so many documented contacts with Russian officials and Russian intelligence operatives during the 2016 election, and why did he and his team repeatedly lie about those contacts and try to conceal them from investigators? It was a perfect prosecutor's question, assuming facts not in evidence, accusing Trump of wrongdoing while pretending to just ask for clarification, forcing him to either confess or look guilty by hedging. The room waited for Trump to do what he always did: deny, attack, deflect, go on a tangent about witch hunts and fake news. Instead, he smiled and called it a great question. Perfect, actually, because it let him show everyone something very important. He pressed the remote, and the screens lit up. What appeared was a document with official classified markings at the top, a declassification stamp across it, titled Classified Intelligence Brief, House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, Gang of Eight Briefing, March 15, 2017, subject FBI Counterintelligence Investigation Trump Campaign, declassified January 15, 2025. The text was clearly visible, stating the FBI counterintelligence assessment was that while investigations into potential coordination had been ongoing since July 2016, and multiple contacts between campaign associates and Russian nationals had been confirmed, investigators had found no evidence of coordination or conspiracy between the campaign and the Russian government to date. It explicitly stated that contacts alone do not indicate conspiracy or coordination, and while the FBI would continue investigating, the current assessment was that no credible intelligence supported allegations of campaign coordination with the Russian government. Trump let it sit on the screen for a moment, letting everyone read it, letting the words sink in. Then he read it aloud, slowly, clearly, emphasizing every word. No evidence of coordination or conspiracy. He pointed out that this is what the FBI told the Gang of Eight briefing, which included Senator Schiff, on March 15, 2017. He noted that Schiff attended this briefing and then showed the attendance log, a new document with Adam Schiff's signature clearly visible. Trump paused and then noted that the very next day, March 16, 2017, Schiff went on Meet the Press. A video clip played of Adam Schiff on MSNBC with Chuck Todd asking him a question, and Schiff responding with his signature grave expression that he had seen more than circumstantial evidence of collusion between the Trump campaign and the Russians. Trump paused the video and repeated the phrase, "more than circumstantial," pointing out that Schiff said that on national television the day after the FBI told him explicitly that they had found no evidence of coordination or conspiracy. He looked at Schiff and asked, "So my question to you, Senator, is this. Were you lying to Chuck Todd, or were you lying in the classified briefing? Because those two things can't both be true." The room had gone completely silent. Every eye was on Schiff. Every camera zoomed in on his face. His expression had changed. The confidence was gone, replaced by something that looked like a man who just realized he'd walked into a trap he couldn't escape. He opened his mouth to respond, claiming the president was taking his words out of context. Trump held up a hand and offered to show more context. The screen changed, and a timeline appeared with dates down the left side and events on the right. It showed the March 15, 2017 Gang of Eight briefing, where the FBI reported no evidence of coordination, followed by Schiff on MSNBC on March 16, claiming more than circumstantial evidence, then March 20 on CNN, claiming evidence worthy of investigation, then May 15 on MSNBC, claiming evidence that is not circumstantial, then July 21 on CNN, claiming plenty of evidence of collusion. Then, September 18 on MSNBC, claiming there is more than circumstantial evidence. The timeline continued, date after date, appearance after appearance, different shows, same claim. I've seen evidence. Trump let it scroll. The list was long. He stated that Schiff went on television 227 times over the next 2 years, claiming he'd seen evidence of collusion, and that his staff had counted every interview. He pressed the remote again, and a supercut began playing of Schiff on different networks, different dates, saying the same thing over and over. "I've seen direct evidence, more than circumstantial evidence, evidence in plain sight, plenty of evidence of collusion, abundant evidence." In the corner of the screen, a counter ticked up showing which appearance it was: 47 of 227, 89 of 227, 143 of 227. It was devastating his own words, his own face, over and over for nearly a minute, the same claim repeated in dozens of different settings. When it finished, Trump looked at Schiff and said, 227 times. But the actual classified briefings, the ones you attended, the ones you signed for, said the opposite. They said no evidence was found. So which is it, Senator? Were you lying to the intelligence community? Or were you lying to the American people? Schiff tried to respond, his voice losing its earlier confidence, claiming the intelligence picture evolved over time. Trump cut him off, saying, "Oh, it evolved? Let's look at how it evolved." More documents appeared, a sequence month by month. The May 2017 Gang of Eight briefing. An FBI update stating no new evidence of coordination. The Carter Page FISA surveillance revealing no evidence of conspiracy. The George Papadopoulos interviews providing no evidence of coordination. Schiff on CNN 3 days later saying the evidence of collusion is hiding in plain sight. The July 2017 briefing stating multiple interviews with campaign associates completed, including Michael Flynn, Paul Manafort, Carter Page, and George Papadopoulos, with no evidence of conspiracy found to date. Schiff on MSNBC 2 days later, claiming he has seen direct evidence of collusion. The September 2017 briefing on the Steele dossier assessment, where the FBI determined the primary source was not credible, and key allegations remained unverified. Schiff continuing to cite the Steele dossier publicly as credible evidence. Trump walked through these methodically, one briefing after another, each one saying no evidence found, each one followed by Schiff going on television to say the opposite. Every single briefing told him the same thing: no evidence, no coordination, no conspiracy. And every single time, he walked out of that secure room and told America he'd seen evidence. Trump put down the remote and stated, "That's not evolving intelligence, Senator. That's systematic lying." Trump then picked up a different document and shifted to the topic of phone calls. He explained that when classified information kept leaking to the media, the FBI investigated and tracked leaks, obtaining phone records including Schiff's. A new timeline appeared, this one more precise. December 12, 2016, 4:47 p.m. A phone call from Adam Schiff to CNN producer John Bonfield, lasting 15 minutes, followed by a CNN story on December 13th regarding intel chiefs presenting Trump with claims of Russian efforts to compromise him. December 18th, 2016, 3:22 p.m. A phone call from Adam Schiff to New York Times reporter Adam Goldman, lasting 23 minutes, followed by a New York Times story on December 20th regarding British intelligence sharing evidence. January 10th, 2017, 2:17 p.m. A phone call from Adam Schiff to an MSNBC producer lasting 19 minutes, followed by an MSNBC story on January 11th with more classified details. The pattern repeated over and over. Schiff's phone call to a reporter or producer, followed within 24 to 48 hours by a story with classified information. The timeline showed 43 instances over 2 years. Trump let everyone absorb this, stating that Schiff didn't just lie about what he saw in classified briefings, he leaked what he saw, taking classified information he was legally obligated to protect and giving it to friendly reporters. Then, going on TV to confirm the stories he'd leaked. He looked directly at Schiff and said, "That's not oversight, Senator. That's propaganda. That's using your security clearance as a political weapon, and it's a felony." Schiff stood up again, protesting that these characterizations were completely false. Trump corrected him, stating these were not characterizations but phone records from an FBI investigation into leaks of classified information, documenting his phone number. Calling reporters followed within hours by stories containing classified details from briefings he attended. That is not characterization. That is documentation. Trump pressed the remote, and more phone records appeared, asking if he should show all 43 or if Schiff got the point. Schiff sat down. He knew where this was going and knew he couldn't stop it. Trump shifted to a new topic, but his tone remained calm, conversational, almost like he was just walking through facts, which made it somehow more devastating. He brought up Ukraine, September 2019, the phone call, the whistleblower, and the impeachment. He reminded Schiff of opening the impeachment inquiry hearing in September 2019 as chairman of the Intelligence Committee and reading what he claimed was the essence of Trump's phone call with President Zelensky. A video played of Schiff at the hearing speaking with dramatic flair, fabricating a dialogue where Trump demands a favor 7 times and tells Zelensky to make up dirt on his political opponent. Trump stopped the video and stated, "That's what you said in an impeachment inquiry in Congress, on the record, while the world was watching. There's one small problem with it. That's not what I said. Not remotely." He showed the actual transcript on screen, highlighting sections that showed the actual conversation with no 7 times, no make-up dirt, no threats, nothing even close to Schiff's theatrical performance. Trump noted Schiff completely fabricated dialogue, put words in his mouth he never said, and when Republicans objected, Schiff called it parody. Trump's voice rose slightly, questioning, "Parody? In an impeachment inquiry? You're reading complete fiction into the congressional record while millions of people watching think it's real, and you call it parody?" He pulled out polling data showing 63% of people who saw the performance thought those were Trump's actual words because Schiff presented it that way. Trump called it fraud and fabricating evidence in an impeachment proceeding. The room was stunned. Even reporters who'd covered this story were seeing it differently now, with the contrast between Schiff's theatrical reading and the actual transcript displayed side by side. Trump continued to the whistleblower, reminding Schiff of his claim on television that he had no prior contact with the person. A video of Schiff saying exactly that played. Trump stated that was a lie. Schiff's staff met with the whistleblower 3 times before the complaint was filed, helping him find a lawyer and craft the complaint. Phone logs appeared showing calls and meetings between the whistleblower and Schiff's staff in August 2019, weeks before the complaint was filed, contradicting Schiff's September claims. Trump stated impeachment was launched based on a complaint Schiff's office helped create while he lied to America about his involvement. Trump then picked up another document, looking newer, more recent. October 2020, Hunter Biden's laptop. He recalled the New York Post breaking the story of emails showing potential corruption and foreign business dealings 3 weeks before a presidential election, and noted Schiff did something remarkable. A new classified document appeared. FBI briefing to the Senate Intelligence Committee, October 2020, regarding the Hunter Biden laptop. The document confirmed the device was authentic, belonged to Hunter Biden, had been in FBI possession since December 2019, and forensic analysis confirmed emails and documents were genuine with no evidence of Russian involvement. The attendance sheet showed Schiff had been briefed. Trump read it aloud, letting every word land. emphasizing that the FBI told Schiff the laptop was real and had nothing to do with Russia. Then he played a video compilation of Schiff on different networks over a 3-day period in October 2020, calling the laptop a smear from the Kremlin, classic Russian disinformation, and a Russian information operation. Trump pointed out Schiff went on television and called it Russian disinformation, even though the FBI had just told him it was real, lying 3 weeks before an election to protect a candidate using his position and clearance to spread disinformation. Trump pulled out more documents regarding the letters signed by 51 former intelligence officials. Declassified emails appeared from Schiff's staff director to multiple former intelligence officials on October 16, 2020, detailing talking points and suggesting language for the letter. More emails showed the back and forth, proving Schiff's staff coordinated with former officials, providing the framing. Trump accused Schiff of orchestrating the whole thing to give media and social media the excuse to censor the story, all based on a lie he knew was a lie, because he'd been briefed that the laptop was real. Trump's voice was harder now, stating that suppressing the truth to influence an election, using security clearance, is not protecting national security. It is election interference. Trump stepped back from the podium, took a breath, and when he spoke again, his voice was quieter, more intense. He addressed Senator Schiff and asked him a question, the same question Schiff had been asking him for 8 years. Every camera was on Schiff's face. He looked smaller now, diminished. Trump asked, "How many times did you lie to the American people?" The silence was absolute. Trump listed the instances. Was it the 227 times he claimed evidence of collusion that didn't exist? The 43 times he leaked classified information? When he fabricated the Ukraine call transcript? When he lied about the whistleblower? When he called a real laptop Russian disinformation? Trump's voice rose, asking how many times Schiff used his security clearance as a weapon, how many times he looked into cameras and lied about what he'd been told in secret briefings. He gestured to the screens filled with documents. "You spent 8 years calling me a liar, a traitor, a Russian agent. You impeached me twice. You ran investigations designed to destroy me. You went on television almost every single day telling America I was compromised. And the entire time, you were the one lying. Provably, documentedly, systematically." Trump leaned on the podium, emphasizing these weren't theories, but declassified government documents, signatures, phone records, and videos. He stated the evidence wasn't debatable. You lied hundreds of times, maybe thousands. You used your position to leak classified information and spread propaganda. You fabricated evidence. You suppressed the truth, all while wrapping yourself in the flag and claiming to defend democracy. He straightened up and asked one more time, in front of the American people, in front of these cameras, with all the evidence on display, how many times did you lie, Senator Schiff? The room was dead silent. 78 million people watching at home. Every eye on Adam Schiff. He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. Nothing came out. Because what could he say? Every document was real. Every timeline was accurate. Every contradiction was undeniable. Trump waited, letting the silence stretch, letting America see that Schiff had no answer. Finally, Trump spoke again, quieter, almost sad. "You don't have an answer, because the answer is hundreds of times, maybe thousands. So many you've probably lost count. You spent 8 years as the face of the Russia investigation. The intelligence expert Americans were supposed to trust, the man who'd seen the evidence we couldn't see. And you were lying the whole time, using classified information as both a sword and a shield, leaking what helped your narrative, hiding what hurt it, making up what didn't exist." Trump gathered his documents and concluded that the American people deserved better. They deserved the truth. They deserved someone who'd use their security clearance to protect them, not manipulate them. Instead, they got Adam Schiff. The remaining 37 minutes of the press conference were almost anticlimactic. Other reporters tried to ask questions. Trump answered some, but everyone knew the story had already been written. The press conference was over the moment Schiff couldn't answer the question. Schiff sat frozen in his front row seat. He didn't ask another question, didn't try to defend himself, didn't leave because that would look like running away. He just sat there while other reporters asked about policy. Trump kept circling back. When asked about FBI reforms, he noted that the FBI was actually telling the truth the whole time, stating no evidence, while Schiff kept lying. When asked about intelligence community morale, Trump gestured to the screen showing documents and said the intelligence community was honest. They gave accurate briefings. It wasn't their fault. Certain members of Congress lied about what they were told. Each time, cameras cut to Schiff, face expressionless, the confident prosecutor replaced by a man who wanted to disappear. When Trump finally closed the press conference at 3:43 p.m., Schiff stood up immediately, pushed through the crowd toward the exit, ignoring reporters swarming him with questions about disputing the documents, leaking information, or resigning. He said nothing and disappeared. Trump stayed for another 15 minutes, looking relaxed and satisfied. Within 2 hours, the internet exploded. Clips were everywhere. Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Reddit. The "How many times did you lie?" question hit 93 million views in 90 minutes. The footage of Schiff's face when the first document appeared got 81 million views. The side-by-side of Schiff's statements versus actual briefings hit 127 million. The supercut of 227 lies reached 76 million. The fabricated transcript comparison got 98 million views. Conservative media went supernova, declaring Schiff destroyed and exposed. Liberal media struggled. MSNBC led with Trump weaponizing declassification, but analysts admitted the documents with Schiff's signature were undeniable contradictions. Social media was brutal. Schiff lied trended #1 worldwide. Even liberal accounts expressed betrayal. The New York Post ran a special edition Vindicated. By midnight, every major news organization led with the story of Schiff facing questions after declassified briefings contradicted his statements. The next week was a political earthquake. Ethics complaints flooded the Senate. The DOJ announced a review of leak investigations. The Senate voted 67-33 to remove Schiff from the Intelligence Committee, with 17 Democrats joining Republicans. Polling showed Schiff's approval rating collapsing by 29 points in California. 79% of voters believed he lied. Investigative journalists published deep dives like the Schiff dossier in the Washington Post and how one senator misled a nation in the Wall Street Journal. More declassified documents revealed Schiff requesting investigations to generate headlines and keeping a dossier on Republicans. By week 4, Schiff agreed to an interview on MSNBC, but failed to explain the contradictions, stumbling through answers about evolving intelligence, while the host pointed out direct contradictions with signed briefings. The interview went viral for his inability to defend himself. 3 months later, the Senate formally censured Adam Schiff by a vote of 71-29, citing systematic misrepresentation of classified information, leaking, fabrication of evidence, and abuse of security clearance. Book deals were canceled. Speaking engagements evaporated. The 51 intelligence officials claimed they were misled by Schiff's team. 6 months after the press conference, Adam Schiff announced he would not seek re-election, resigning to focus on other priorities, effectively ending his career. Katie Porter won his seat on a platform of truth. 1 year later, Trump reflected on the event, stating he didn't destroy Schiff's career, Schiff did it himself by lying, and that the declassification was necessary to show the truth. The documents became part of the historical record, taught in journalism and law schools as the Schiff case, a lesson in verification and the abuse of power. The legacy of Adam Schiff became not the man who stood up to Trump, but the man who lied about classified information for 8 years and was exposed by the very receipts he claimed didn't exist.